Returnal is an absolute triumph showcase game for PlayStation 5, and I want to talk about that today. I'm not going to get into the review of the game. I'm going to talk about the peripherals. I'm going to talk about why your DualSense controller makes such a radical difference when playing this game, and I'm going to talk a lot about 3D audio because, as you guys know, I have been one of the biggest critics of the Tempest 3D engine, which is why I'm so excited to really talk about this game from that aspect. But as you guys know, before I get into today's video, I would love for you guys to subscribe to the channel. Somebody recently made a request and said, hey, could you bring back the Solitaire? And I did. So can't say I'm not looking out in the comments below. All right, let's talk about Returnal. Now, this is a roguelike game from Housemarque, which is now a PlayStation studio, and it really would make sense that they would showcase their own technology. We saw this with Demon Souls. We saw this with Astrobot, where PlayStation is taking all of their gimmicks and they're putting them into a game in a meaningful way. Let's first start with the DualSense controller, and I want to talk about the haptic feedback specifically in this game. This is unlike anything I've felt before. Returnal is a 3D platformer shooter at its heart. You're going to be doing a lot of jumping. You're going to be doing a lot of dashing. You're going to be a lot of shooting. You're going to get some melee weapon. You're going to get a melee weapon later. You're going to be using that, different abilities. The way that this controller picks up all of that, the way you feel every different terrain you walk on, the way you feel rain dropping down and hitting your suit, the way you feel the recoil of each weapon is masterfully captured in this controller. I know a lot of people think that one set of vibration does it all, and I always have my Elite controller here because that's what I typically use to game on when I play PC gaming. What I love about the Elite controller is that it's got these really powerful motors that I actually have to turn down because after a while, if you're playing a game with a lot of shooting, your hands will start to vibrate and itch. That's how powerful these motors are. This is no joke, but do not mistake power for finesse. And that's where this controller comes in handy with the haptic feedback. I cannot begin to tell you how different this game feels when you have all of that enabled. Smaller, lighter arms like handguns make more of a pop. When you charge them up to do a special attack, you can feel the gun kind of coiling up in your hands. When you release a shot, you can feel it surge out of the weapon. Now, this obviously scales to larger weapons. When you start getting into like the shotgun type weapons or the big heavy machine gun type weapons where you feel that power constantly dissipating even more. But the way that this controller brings just your hands into the action is really unlike anything I've experienced before. I would say that the Astrobot demo game that comes bundled on the PlayStation 5 is about as close as you can get as really making you feel things. Like when the spring coils up when you're doing that mission, or when you're swinging around with the monkey, or when you're sliding on ice versus walking on the beach, you do feel a little bit of a difference there as well. This game takes that and puts it in a more practical environment that most of us are used to playing in, that being a third-person shooter game with platforming elements. And I think that really brings the experience out. But as much as I love the haptic feedback, I have to talk about the 3D audio. And you guys know, and I have an entire playlist on this channel, and I'll put a link in that description below. Click on it, look through some of those videos, because you will see I have been very critical of PlayStation Tempest 3D engine audio and trying to get a good sound experience out of the PlayStation 5 natively. And it's hard to do because the Tempest 3D audio engine, although it adds spatial awareness, it typically muddies out the signal. It makes everything sound like it's faint and farther away, and it's not very crystal clear. The exception to that, again, another PlayStation game. This time, no, not Astro, actually Demon Souls. That's the one that really handled that very well, where you would be walking around and you could hear wind and you could hear, like wind whistling in the background and creaking and enemies groaning and moaning all around you. And it added to the environment and to the creepiness of that game in such a phenomenal way that it really does feel like two different games. the 3D version, the 3D audio version of the game, and the non 3D audio version of the game. And I'm here to say that Returnal has been now, to me, the absolute gold standard when it comes to 3D audio. It's interesting because when you turn on the game for the first time, it pops up, and of course it goes through all the menu options of closed captions and brightness and that sort of thing. And one of the settings is make sure your 3D audio is on. Do you have headphones? Enable 3D audio. Here's how, in case you don't know. Go to menus, which I was like, wow, typically games don't really advertise that. Even Demon Souls didn't advertise that. Astro didn't advertise that. Miles Morales didn't advertise that. It's just something that's kind of buried in the menu option. Now, it's up front and center for me. That's one of the first things I check when I'm doing a review on my PlayStation 5. I turn on 3D audio, I turn it off. I tried wired controllers, I tried wireless controllers, wireless headsets, wired headsets. I'm going to be getting the Shit Hell 2 digital analog converter, which is going to give me even more power so I could use my tried and true Sennheisers. I'm buying new headphones for that. I'm an audiophile in that sense. So I'm always curious how 3D audio will work. And 99.9% of the time, the Tempest 3D engine is garbage. It fails. It doesn't sound good. That is not the case with Returnal. This is a showcase game. That's the first thing I said when I started this video, and that's what I'm trying to tell you guys. The 3D audio in this game, particularly with the branded PlayStation headphones. It does work, by the way. I did try my Steel Series 7Xs, 7Ps. They work just as well, although I think I got the slight edge to the Astro on this. The 3D audio in this game is unreal. The amount of ambient noise you hear around you, the way that you hear gunfire fly past you makes such a big difference in combat because you're very focused on a single target. And you're going to have to be dashing around because you don't want to get hit, obviously, because you don't want to die, but it's a game mechanic as well. And you are going to be able to almost play this game with your eyes closed, because the 3D audio is that pinpoint accurate, and it does such a great job of giving you depth in both the horizontal direction, but also vertically. So you can pretty accurately tell there's an enemy right over there and know almost instantly that you're right based on the sound. While you're shooting at an enemy and another enemy is coming up behind you, the 3D audio is going to do a phenomenal job of capturing that as well. You're going to be able to hear enemy footsteps behind you. But it doesn't just end there. The way that they've integrated very subtle sound cues into this game makes such a big difference, and the 3D audio captures it oh so well. The way that your gun, when you have a primary fire mode and then the secondary fire mode. Secondary is usually some kind of big explosion, a lightning bolt, some kind of grenade, like a big weapon impact. That takes time to charge back up. Now, there is a visual representation, a little icon on the bottom of your screen that slowly fills up a box. When the box is completely filled up, you can use that ability again. Your crosshair will actually also flash very quickly as well to let you know, hey, you're ready to go, in case you're not looking at the bottom of your screen. But there's this very subtle audio cue that you will only hear with 3D audio. And I've tested this. I went back and forth. I took my Sennheisers. I took my Steel Series. I took my Astros. I went upstairs and I was playing with this. I didn't really get to enjoy the game because I wanted to really quadruple check this. There's a subtle audio cue of the gun whining, this high coil whine. And it ramps up very slowly. And when it gets to full, it fades out. And that's when you know that you are able to use your weapon again, which is such a great idea for using this 3D audio engine. And it comes out in a tone that's very different from everything else you hear in the game, despite all the gunfire, the explosions, the voiceovers that you're going to get, the rain dropping on you, the way the music swells up when you're entering an arena to fight enemies, and the way that the music swells down when you've killed the last one off. You will still hear that humming, that like high-pitched whining in the background of that weapon coiling up. There are other 3D audio effects as well in terms of how you hear the enemies snapping at you, the way their jaws, or the way that their explosions hit the ground, and it sounds like dirt. It sounds like a dirt explosion, and like the way the dirt would just like explode, and you would have dirt just kind of like from a central point fanning out. Depending on how far away you stand from that, depends obviously on the audio as well. And it sounds significantly better in 3D. One of the other really cool things about the 3D audio is the way your gun reverbs out in the periphery. So when you're out in a field and you're shooting a gun, you can hear a snap. It's a very loud, and then you hear that reverb all the way down. And if you're close to a wall or you're in a cavern, you'll hear it come back at you, which the 3D design in this is insane. And I'm telling you guys, it sounds so much better in 3D. Normally, I'm the biggest advocate. Turn this crap off. It muffles the sound. It mutes the sound. It sucks. And I'm telling you, it is so good. So if you are checking out Returnal, which I highly, highly recommend, I'll be doing more videos on the gameplay portion later. I just want to talk about the technical aspect of it today. Do yourself a favor. Obviously, you're going to be playing on this because it's a PlayStation 5 exclusive. Do yourself a favor too and turn on that 3D audio. And I think you're really going to like what you hear. And I think it's going to be pretty gosh darn game changing. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the 3D audio with Returnal. Let me know if you've played with it, if you've taken my advice in the past and turned it off and turn it on. Play with it both ways. I think you're going to be very, very impressed with this. What a phenomenal demonstration of the PlayStation 5 capabilities. If this is a tease of what's to come in games like Ratchet and Clank and God of War Ragnarok and Spider-Man 2 and Horizon Forbidden West and every other PlayStation exclusive studio game we have coming out, I think anybody who's a fan of audio is going to be in for a real treat. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.